Welcome to the Tailormade, the fitness industry podcast. My name is Marc Rode and I'm the host of this show. So usually you expected a German podcast, but because of the COVID situation, we can't travel, we can't talk to the people one-on-one in a room. So I decided to open a new chapter in the book, and this is called Tailormade International. So I'll talk to people, to highly renowned experts from around the world, and I decided to talk with 3 people from 3 continents. This will be Gavin Aquilina from Australia, this will be Dr. Paul Bedford from United Kingdom, and last but not least, an icon, Mr. Brian O'Rourke from the US. So we will talk about the COVID situation, so what's important right now to make sure your members are happy, to make sure the health system will be supported, all these stuff from 3 different point of views and continents. So please join these sessions. We have 3 in a row. Today we start with Dr. Paul Bedford, and sorry for that, but he's a friend, he's a mentor, he's a unbelievable, the friendliest guy I have ever met, and he's so lovely in the podcast, and he's so on point, and he's breaking down all this stuff to very, very easy to follow steps. We have 45 minutes, around 50 minutes about member behavior and how to bond the member to the club. Yeah, and the next, I think, 40 minutes is around COVID and the situation in his country, and in total the situation in the fitness industry. So please feel free to skip forward and backward, but don't miss Dr. Paul Bedford. I'm honored and I'm very, very happy that we did this podcast show. Bye bye, leave a comment, subscribe the channel, talk to you soon. Ahoy from Hamburg.
Are you ready, Paul?
I'm ready, Mark.
Always. A very warm welcome to the Tailormade podcast, the fitness industry. It sounds German because it's a German podcast. And I'm more than happy, and it's a real big pleasure to welcome Dr. Paul Bedford from UK for this podcast. So I was thinking about, I'm very interested in how it works in different countries or continents. And you are the first guest on the show. And it's a very new podcast in Germany, but I think everybody should know who you are and what you're doing. Okay. He's the biggest researcher I know, and he's one of the guys I met very early in my professional development with live fitness. And since years, we walking around, and I'm joining his sessions. I'm joining the retention convention, and he invited me a few times as a guest, and I could sit there, and I was very, very proud to be part of it and to learn, because it's very influencing. But at the end, I know you were a gym instructor.
I have now been in the fitness industry 27 years. And as you said, I started as a gym instructor, I became a personal trainer, and in the end, I became a fitness manager running facilities. I stepped aside from that to work in education and train personal trainers, and spent about 10 plus years training more than 3,000 people to be personal trainers. So I understand how the human body works, but I've always had an interest in the human mind and human behavior. So I did a master's degree in exercise psychology. I did a second master's degree in research science, and ended up doing my PhD looking at how you apply behavior change psychology in fitness environments. And I spend most of my time now, in fact, I spend all of my time now conducting research in commercial businesses on exercise behavior and customer behavior. And I develop strategies, retention strategies for businesses so they can keep their customers for longer.
Yeah. And this is the reason why the company is called the Retentionguru. Is that right?
Yeah. In fact, I only ever shorten it to Retentionguru. So I sort of named the company Retentionguru, and then with an intention of perhaps building a big company and then selling it, rather than saying I'm the retention guru. But I do get introduced all the time as, this is Dr. Paul Bedford, the retention guru. And I'm like, it's not the Facebook. It's just Facebook.
Yeah.
But I can live with it. It's,
Yeah.
you know, a guru is just someone who's further down the path of learning than the student.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I see it. I've spent the past 15 years thinking about how you keep customers. And I do that every day, all day long.
Yeah.
What can we do to keep our customers for longer?
Yeah. The most impressive thing, it's very easy, because for me, the impressive thing is you can break down things, very complicated things, and very easy to understand facts. That's good for me because I do not have a PhD. Yeah. And this, please tell us, what is in your mind? What's the main topic? How do you start to think about when you're thinking about retention, or how to deliver a new strategy? Or
Okay. So when I look at a business, my preference is always to extract the business data. So I want numbers, facts, and figures, because then that way I can do analysis and I can look at where the problem exists. Because a lot of people just think of retention as a single action problem, where actually retention's an outcome. You do lots of different behaviors to retain your customer. But what you should know is, where do the customers quit? Is it after the first month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Because really, if they're staying with you 3, 4, 5 years and they quit, you probably actually haven't got a retention problem. If they're quitting after 30 days, you've definitely got a retention problem. So we normally start off with data. If we can get it, we run analysis on the data. We look for insights in that data, and then we plan a strategy based on that. And once we've got the data in place, we'll then visit a club, or we'll have a long conversation via a Zoom call or a Skype call with an operator for them to discuss with us what they currently do as their customer experience. So we'll get a real in-depth data one side, and then the actual physical experience on the other side. And that gives us a starting point then, usually, to start planning out the strategies for the businesses.
Fun fact is, I never heard you say, I believe in. You never say believe. He's the only guy, he never said, I believe in, because he knows. Yeah. And this is, last time we met, it was in Hamburg.
Yeah.
I can say the name from the
Yeah.
customer, and at the Aspria, and there was the CEO board, and everybody was there, and you impressed with a lot of numbers. And the mind of the managers totally changed, because lots of the managers are not only from the Aspria, from all over the world. We believe we have, or I thought that could be, or something like this.
Yeah.
And what's the next step? If you talk to a CEO or whatever, managers, what's your, in Germany, we put his shoe between the door. I don't know how to say it in English.
I understand. What's the first step, really?
What is the first step?
Yeah.
How do you impress them?
So the way I look at it is, and I heard this actual expression from someone else the other day, and that was, we act on facts.
Yeah. Nice.
But we look at the facts rather than the intuition. Now, we all have intuitions. We all have an idea of what might be causing it, but we prefer to act on the facts. Once we've got our data in place, once we've got an understanding of the business, we'll choose one area of the business that we think is going to have a big impact, but take a small amount of work. And I know I've made lots of people laugh, because I say, as a consultant, what I want to do is have the biggest impact without doing as little work as possible. Mm-hmm. But that's what the customer also wants. They want to have an impact in their clubs. We will then, once we've got our data, we will then map out all the different things a business can do. So it might be something that's digital, in the way that you communicate through an app, text messaging, emails. We'll look at the actual onboarding process for the customer, in terms of using the gym, in terms of using the studio. We'll sort of mind map every potential thing that they could do. And then we look at their resources. What resources do they have in place within the business to deliver that? Because there's no point in saying to an operator, yeah, we've got a solution, but it's going to cost you 500,000 euros in new software to implement. And that's more than the cost of their business. So you have to think about, what can they physically do and physically, I also mean digitally, what can they physically deliver that's within a cost that's actually of value, so that the extra months they get from the members staying longer actually becomes profit in the business, not just is swallowed up in the cost of delivering this extra service.
And the last time when we met in that meeting,
Yeah.
that was an eye opener for me too, because everybody is asking, okay, how can we increase the retention of our members from whatever 15 to 30 months?
Yeah.
And there was one easy fact from your last science, from 40,000 or 50,000 science from UK, from Dr. Melvin Hudson, and you, or who did that? I can't. It was
Melvin. Yeah, Dr. Melvin Hilston.
Yeah, and tell us if you talk to a member.
Okay, so we did a study. I know exactly the one you mean. Yeah. We did a study where we were able to actually measure customer visits and if they were spoken to or not when they visited. And I often refer it in my slide deck as my absolute favorite slide. And what we're able to show is that if someone visits, they visit and I speak to them once this month, the likelihood of them returning next month increases by 20%. If I speak to them 2 to 3 times this month, the likelihood of them returning next month goes up to 50%. And if I speak to them on 4 or more occasions, which does require 4 visits, not 4 interactions in 1 visit, so it does need 4 visits, but if I speak to them on 4 visit occasions, the likelihood of them turning up the next month goes up by 80%. So we're always encouraging operators to maximize the use of their staff to talk to their customers, particularly if they've only got a small amount of stuff in the latter part of the month, because it will just encourage the customer to visit again. And we've developed strategies and interaction approaches that help drive that behavior, because all we want is the next visit, the next visit, the next visit.
Yeah. And sorry, all instructors in the world, Paul was talking about for just talking to a member, not to talking very clever or smart to a member or tell him the next science, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's just, hey, hello, how are you? How was your holiday? Yeah. May I help you? Something like this. And for me, it was too, in my younger years as an instructor, I was walking around and always, I just want to act like a machine. I want to be proper arms. I want to deliver very high intensive sessions. And I wasn't aware about my member. I wasn't aware there's someone in front of me. He has totally different aims in his life. And at the end, it's, you know, for sure, you know, Keith Smith, as a friend for years. And he said, so everyone has different feelings when there is a session will be delivered by your instructor, and you have to make sure you understand the needs and wants from the opposite before you start to planning your workout. And that's comes back to you and the emotions and the change of the behavior, because that's the kind of a point of sale. It starts at the reception, and then it goes to the small group or group fitness or the training floor, the gym floor, and it's all the point of sale. It's not the point of sale where you're doing your signature under the contract. The POS is the whole gym all the time. Is that right?
That's right. And, you know, I know when I was a young gym instructor, I actually wasn't that young, but it was when I was a new gym instructor, I had a lot of confidence in my knowledge, but not a lot of confidence in myself. And so my approach was a lot like a lot of instructors. I would be very much like a doctor, very prescriptive. You know, if you're going to train, you need to be at this heart rate and for this time, and these are the intervals, and it'd all be very technical. And what I realized, and I think it's as I matured and as I got more confident, was actually most of the people who were exercising, their goal for the day was to exercise. They don't have goals in the same way regular exercisers do or trainers do, in terms of going, I'm going to do a 30-minute HIIT session. It's going to have eight intervals of 15 seconds with a 45-second recovery period. They don't think like that. They think, I'm going to work out today. And it takes actually a lot of courage to say, I know this, but I'll share it with you when you're ready, not, I know this, I'm going to tell you because I need to tell you now.
Mhm. I was thinking about a strategy for the future right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because some data, some facts, we have 7.7 billion humans on the earth living here. 3.5 are gamers and 1.5 are physical active.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Germany, we have 12%.
Yeah, we're about the same.
And so 88% of the people are not joining the gym.
Yeah.
And some people are telling, oh, that's the border, 12, 13% in a country, that's the border for people to join the gym. I said, nah, I don't think so. And then I started to rethink about the name, fitness studio. Yeah. And then I came back to the wants and needs. Have you ever thought about when you bought toothpaste, what do they sell? Do they sell healthy teeth?
No.
Or what do they say? You want to be attractive, for the opposite, for a girl, for whatever, a woman, whatever. You want to look good.
Yeah.
And the name fitness studio, it's the wrong name, I think. It must be a name like, this is an institution for delivering you a longer life on a higher quality without pain and looking good naked.
Well, Mark, I agree. One of the things that I've been conscious of while we've all been in lockdown is a lot of the fitness industry is saying we should be seen as a healthcare provider. We should be seen as a healthcare provider. And then when I look at the way those businesses are portraying themselves to the public, they're not portraying themselves as healthcare providers. They're portraying themselves as fitness providers. And we talk about, and I don't know if it's the same in Germany, we talk about the fitness industry, yet when we talk about our medical professions, we talk about services. So we're an industry, but they're a service. And so, I think there's a lot of gaps between the way we think and behave as a sector and the way in which the health sector behave. And I actually think there's probably room for the fitness industry to get up to about 20% in most countries. But I think the next 20% actually doesn't look like a gym. It's some form of activity. And what we might see now is that activity is delivered virtually, where people are doing their training virtually. Because one of the things that I'm conscious of, one of the things I looked at a lot when we were doing our studies is what's called self-protection theory. People avoid situations where they feel incompetent, unconfident, and feel like they look ugly. And I don't mean physically ugly. I mean, they just feel like they're out of place. Whereas digital and digitally streamed programs, people are almost anonymous. They can do the workout without actually having to worry about what anybody else thinks. And I think that the digital approach is going to be a really nice way to transition people who want to go to the gym but have always been too scared to get familiar with the exercise environment.
And you know what? I do a 30-day bodyweight program.
Yeah.
And the exercises I choose were much easier than my training sessions without a screen in between the person and me, because I want to deliver an easy version of a very impactful exercise. So I decided to make it easy, and to do not jump around and whatever, arm choreography stuff like this. And it works very well. The people have, for sure, there are people say, I don't like that. I don't follow the second program. Okay, I'm fine. It was 2 of 20. That's nice. Yeah, but others told me they have a 6-pack right now. They lost 5 kilograms in 30 days. Yeah, because of the daily routine of 30 minutes working out, and it was a macro cycle planned with rehab and cardio and mobility and all that stuff, and everyone has the time each day to follow the routine. And that's gave me those kind of blowing my mind. I know that because I've studied that stuff, physical exercising. Yeah. But right now, each day for 30, 40 minutes and doing exactly the same stuff as your instructor told you.
Yeah.
And not the instructor, Instagram, Facebook, and 7-minute app, and you're doing the whole shit together at one time in 1 week. The super compensation is totally blowing away. But yeah, this will be, and now we switch over to the situation in our countries. But this was a very nice intro, an overview from what you're doing, what you're delivering, and what your services and how you work with the people. It's about emotions. And right now, one starting point when I was thinking about this podcast was what happens in UK, and next week there will be US, and we have Australia, and maybe someone from the Middle East or Asian part. Can you sum up the status right now? What's happening now in your country in terms of COVID? And
okay, so here in the UK today we're still in lockdown. This week we're getting some ease of restrictions, but there's no ease of restrictions in terms of the shops or services. Basically, we're getting more freedom to move around. We've been told we're currently told we can exercise once a day for 30 minutes. Later this week, we will be able to do unlimited amounts of exercise. And we can travel to destinations to do that, but that doesn't include gyms. So we could go to the parks, we could go into nature, we could, go for a longer walk, and we could drive somewhere nice to go for a longer walk. We've been given an indication that our schools and most of our shops will start to open up at the end of May. But hospitality, restaurants, and I think gyms are included within that, won't be till July. So we've still got another period of time yet before the majority of our clubs open up. And in fact, some of our providers are saying they wouldn't even be ready in July because of the nature of their business, their staff are also employed by the local municipal government, and they've been redeployed from running the leisure centres into doing care in the community. And until that work is done, they won't be open to their facilities. But a lot of the big commercial operators, they're getting ready to open, and a lot of them have been working really hard to provide some alternative form of exercise that keeps the customer linked to their business. So the big operator, David Lloyd, they've got their app and they've got exercise programs. Smaller operators are buying third-party solutions in order to provide support and service to their customers.
And when you see the industry part of this problem, what do you think? Who will be the winner of this situation?
I'm not sure that there's going to be. Okay, if there's going to be any winners, it's going to be within the digital transformation process. I think lots of people have been talking about the fitness industry needs to become more digitally focused. And I think when they say that, what they mean is have an online digital solution, like a Peloton, like a Beachbody, but more related to the business. I think a lot of people have talked about it. This situation has forced people to accelerate that process. So almost everybody I know now has some form of digital service that they're providing, either themselves or third party. And I don't think that will go away, but I think what will happen is you'll see, once the clubs are open, you'll see a diminishing initially of people using digital as they go back to using their clubs. So at the moment, you can't go to a club, so everybody has, if you want to follow a program, you have to do it online. People will go back to their clubs. Then, so there'll be a decrease, I think, in the amount of people doing digital. Then I think it will start to rise again slowly, but it'll only rise where there's quality. And I think we're going to end up with two types of digital streaming. You're going to have the really high quality like Peloton, and then you're going to have the I know the instructor level of streaming where you've actually got a relationship with the person teaching the class. And I think all the mediocre workouts that, and there are a lot of them out there at the moment, they'll disappear because they won't have enough of an audience to scale and grow. They might make money, but you know, there'll be some really big digital operators who have clubs, and I think some of the clubs will be becoming more digitally minded and have a hybrid approach where they have a digital version and an in-club version as well.
I think they will have, the memberships will change.
Yeah.
You will have the live membership combined with a digital membership.
Yeah.
And I restructure my webpage right now.
Yeah.
And the first button over right in the right corner, you want an online coaching. That's
Yeah.
the first button right now. Yeah. And a little bit deeper when I'm selling my services, there is, I have a combination of bootcamp classes, PT, and online. And I offer it right now as a mix.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can decide, I want this and that and that. And you fix it for 3 months. And that's the package. And after 3 months, you can decide in a new contract.
Well, I'll give you an example, Mark. I was supposed to be doing a project in California with Gold's Gym SoCal. And so that's the Gold's Gym business, but it's the franchise area that looks after Los Angeles, North and South. And originally I was physically going to go to their locations. I was going to have a week with them in Santa Barbara with their senior management team. We were going to strategize and do the workshops. We were going to create content. We were going to do the whole normal thing that I do. Because of the shutdown of airlines, obviously I couldn't travel. And then the following week, there was the shutdown of clubs in California. I spoke to the chief executive there and said, look, well, come back to me when you're ready. I appreciate, you've got 20 plus clubs. You're trying to understand how you're going to manage. You've got all the staff. I'll leave you alone. Come back to me when you're ready. 2 weeks later, he came back to me and said, when can we start? And I said, well, when lockdown's lifted. And he said, no, can we do it digitally? And I said, I've not done a project of this size digitally before. I've done meetings like this. I've done small workshops like this, but I've never done a whole project. He went, will you try it? And I said, yes. So we then did, on Los Angeles time, me in my office here in London, working with 25 senior managers of clubs and head office. We did a 5-day project where I would start work at 4 p.m. in the afternoon and work through to 9 p.m. in the evening. And we delivered the whole project as if I was going to be there. And so now that's even made me think about the way I can deliver my services. Do I like going to California? I love going to California. We've been together. Will I, if I don't get a chance to go, does that mean I have to stop work now? No. I think I'm more accustomed now to, okay, let's do a Zoom call. Let's do a Skype call. Yeah. Let's get on with things. We're not going to let this get in the way.
Do you charge 100% of your daily fee when you're delivering a service like this via?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
I do.
Thank you.
And I think the difference is, Mark, there are no expenses. So if I'm going to California, I'm in a position where I charge travel time. I charge for my flights, and I'm not extravagant in my flights, so I don't overdo it. But they've then got to find accommodation for me. They've got to feed me. Yeah. There's a big cost to that if they want me there. Yeah. I show them what all the costs would be and say that goes away if you want to do it online. Yeah. Because what they're buying is not, they're buying my knowledge and my experience. And it's always that challenge with services. If someone says, oh, we've 5 days, how much is that going to cost us? And I give them a price. I go, that's a lot of money for 5 days. I said, that's not for 5 days. That's for 15 years of experience and not messing around. It's the reason we can do it in 5 days and not in 10 days. Because once I know once I've identified the problem, we can make changes really rapidly. But I think there is this issue of people going, oh, I'll do it for free, or I should charge less. My knowledge is no less whether I do it online or in person.
Absolutely, I totally agree, and that's one of the answers I gave to some PTs. I was
Yeah.
yesterday on a plenum at a webinar with the top 6 PTs, and I was the 7th. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I was invited from Perform Better. Yeah, and there was a question from the publics. They ask, do you charge 100% of your fee when you're coaching online? I said, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Because they're not, the room, and Thomas, another Korompai, he said, yeah, they do not charge. They get the room for free when they're joining our gym, but they're paying for my services and my knowledge and my experience, and the gym is a bonus. And we don't need the gym to deliver a high quality, progressive workout session. And in these cases right now, it changes rapidly because the companies understand, oh, we can save a lot of money and we will have the same amount of knowledge. And then, you know, that they have to work on and on, it's step by step, to implement the new strategies to the managers. It's not 100% boom, change everything. They need time to adapt. And I think to be a coach, or how you define your consultant, you consult a company, it's maybe much easier to do this as a kind of as a micro consulting each 7, 14 whatever days.
Yes.
And that's maybe more impactful. Can you tell us a little bit more about these little but continuous learning?
So we developed we have a training program that we deliver traditionally face-to-face, where you would go in and we would do a training on interaction, how to talk to customers, how to use behavior change language, how to build rapport, icebreakers. And it's a one-day training. And what we've realized over the years is that if you go in and just do a single day's training and leave it at that, it has an impact for a few days, and then people remember they did the training, but they don't do the behaviors. So the first thing we did was start videoing all our trainings and then providing a copy of that video back to the business and saying to the business, you get a day of us here, plus you get a recording of that day's training that you could use yourself. Then what we realized is that most of the managers didn't know how to structure a training session for the staff, not a workout, but actually an educational session. So we started breaking our educational sessions down into 1 to 8 minute sections. So we created a program recently that is, if you just watch all the theory, it's about 3 hours. It's 8 videos totaling 8 sections totaling 3 hours. And it's all the theory of interaction, the science, plus examples of how to do that. Then what we did was we created 50 1 to 8 minute workshops. So they vary in time depending on the complexity of what someone's got to do. And we videoed those, and we added additional scenes and slides and made them quite interesting to watch visually. But we give them then to the managers and say, this is what you do in week 1 after the training. This is what you do in week 2 after the training. Because we've created 50 videos, we pretty much say you've got a year's worth of training if you do 1 activity a week. Now, if you wanted to boot camp it, you could do 1 activity a day and you'd be done in 12 weeks. And then you could repeat and repeat and repeat. But each of the activities is designed to sort of build on one another. So you really do need to go through the sequence. And some of them are really simplistic and some of them are more complex, but we hold off on the complex ones till people have got the foundations in place. And we're looking at our training now as doing that. Even the workshops I do for the senior management team. If I come for a day, I've got to fill a day with content. Online, I can send them a video up front. They can watch the video, and this is what we did with the Golds team in California. I would send them a video to watch. They would all watch the video in their own time, in comfort. Then we'd agree a time to meet. I would ask them what questions they had based on the video they watched. I'd then give them a task. We'd discuss the task, and then I'd get off the call. They could then go and spend an hour or 2 hours working on that. and then come back later in the day or the next day. So it was a much more efficient use of everybody's time rather than me turning up and just overwhelming them with a huge amount of information all in one go. And so I do think where people are becoming more used to this digital form of communicating, people will get more comfortable with learning things online that traditionally you would have learned face to face.
Yeah. All the time when I step into a club and the young instructors were right in front of me and we start to introduce everything and they are a little bit like, oh, okay, what is he guy talking about? Yeah. And after the introduction, when I said, I am here to help, I'm here to support you, yeah. And I do not like to create a situation as everybody knows it from the school. I'm not a teacher. I'm your partner. Yeah. And then I'm talking and I'm telling, I'm introducing all these ways to interact. And then it's like an icebreaker. And then they start to accept me because I learned a lot. I told before, I learned a lot of all these mindset stuff from you and from Keith. And it's was for me a game changer in my personality. And right now it's very easy. Shouldn't sound arrogant or something like that, but it's most of the time, and after thousands of trainers I trained for the LFA, it's easy to step into the group and deliver this introduction for, I don't care about the time I need for that. 30 minutes, it's on my session plan, it's 15 minutes. Yeah. But trust me, I spend 40 minutes sometimes, yeah, just to catch them. And then it's very easy to do everything. I can do a little duck dance like this with them and they will follow because they know I'm here to support them and and this is exactly the same mentality as you explained. If they're getting comfortable with learning again, they hated it in the study or in the school. It was never a comfortable situation. And if you it's like a game. If you check learning with a mobile, it's more like gaming, like a check learning situation. And if you switch from one to the another techniques, the people really like to learn because they get comfortable. Then that's the big thing, huh?
When we teach our interaction training, we put up a slide which is we say rapport is the mother skill. So you have to build rapport with the other person or group of people. And then we say rule number 1, establish rapport. Rule number 2, attempt nothing else until you've established rapport. Because otherwise all you're doing is telling and all they're doing is nodding and very little is going in and very little is shared. So the experience isn't a great experience. And I would say that to team members as well, that, you know, if you've got to do a sales tour, you need to build rapport. If you're doing an onboarding or an induction, you need to build rapport. If you're teaching a group exercise session, someone comes in for the first time, you need to build rapport. Because that's the way in which you're going to help affect change, because we know that just telling people what to do doesn't really impact their actual behavior. Because if it did, when the government said to everybody, stay at home, they would have just stayed at home. But there's a lot of people that went, well, I'll stay at home for a bit, but then I'm going to go and do this. Or when they ease the restrictions and they say, stay 1.5 meters apart or 2 meters apart, whatever the distance is. Yeah, well, they just get on with what they were doing. So we know just telling people what to do isn't a very effective way of changing their behavior. Getting them to describe what they need to do is much more efficient.
Is it important to combine what with how and why?
Yeah. So I use a teaching approach called format. So it's the number 4 and then MAT.
Yeah.
You start with what, then you talk about why, then you talk about how, and then you discuss what if.
Yeah.
Because of the different learning styles, people are prepared to either wait or not wait for information. So the people who want to know why, a bit like me, I want to know why I'm doing this training. So you say, Paul, today we're going to cover rapport building. Why? I need to know why. If you give me the why, I'll then relax and sit back and listen. Mm-hmm. If you don't give me the why and you say, I'll explain that later on, all my questions are going to be going, so why are we doing this? And why are we doing this? And why are we doing this? So you have to satisfy the why early on. Then you do the how for all those people who just want to know the practical skills. They don't necessarily need to know the why. They just need to, they go, what do you want me to do? And you get on with that and you explain it. Then there's always a small number of people who don't say anything until the end. And in my example, they go, yeah, but what if? And they come up with an alternative solution. Often you'll see that come out as, that won't work. So it sounds like they're being defensive or they're being antagonistic against your idea. But what they're really doing is they're waiting to see the big picture and then thinking about any of the challenges of making it work. So often that person who's right there at the end that says, yeah, but what if? It's not that they disagree with you. Yeah. It's just they've got a slightly different perception. And often they're trying to help you understand, actually, you haven't taken this into consideration.
It's not, it's a little bit like constructive questioning.
Yeah.
Like that. It's not like, I don't like what you say. It's like, I'm thinking, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I try to cover it with my experiences.
Yeah.
And I give you an answer, because they partnered up with you.
Yes.
Because they on eye level because they gave you an answer. That's very nice customers or students.
Yeah.
If it works like that, it's very nice right now. This part of the conversation, and we just have 5 minutes to go, Paul.
Okay.
Maybe we need a round two. Right now, in a conversation yesterday in the plenum, I told them I would spend a lot of time for building up plexi walls, and I would spend a lot of time for building up a poster with cleaning stuff. Yeah. And then I would spend a whole week of training the staff to giving the right answers, because the customers will kill you by language and by questioning.
Definitely.
Is that right?
Yeah. In fact, we released a video today that it's got it's got sections to it, but we talk about customers in 3 types. There's the superhero type of customer who think they're immune. So when they come back, they won't worry about your social distancing. They won't worry about cleaning. They'll just go, I don't believe in coronavirus. It's not going to get me. And they'll just get on with what they want to do. And therefore, we need to train staff how to manage those types of customers and how to communicate with them even before they come in, saying, these are our new standards. These are our new behaviors that we expect you to follow. Yeah. And if you don't, these are the consequences of that. Yeah. Then you've got a group in the middle that I call the cautious and careful. They're going to be the ones who come back. They're going to abide by the rules, but they're going to be watching staff and other customers to check that they're abiding by the rules. And if they don't, they'll withdraw. They won't come because they'll go, no, it's not a safe place to be. And then you've got the scared who, if they do come, and I don't think they'll come initially, if they do come, they'll have their gloves, their masks, they'll have their own sanitizers, and they'll be what I call hyper vigilant. They will be looking at everything to check that it's clean and that everything you said you are doing, you will do. And if there's any breaking of the rules, they'll be the ones with it on their phone, putting it up on Facebook, putting it on WhatsApp, showing it to the news, going, look, these people aren't doing what they said they would do. So I think there needs to be a lot of training, like you've said, around how you're going to deal with these customers when they come in. What information are we sharing? How's that going to work?
Yeah, that's, okay. So let's say that's the most important part right now, to support the staff with the right answers. And I told yesterday, I would do it like a piece of a theater. I would stay in front and be the aggressive member, who's pissed off by paying his monthly fee. And he's like a superhero guy in front of the desk. He starts to shouting and he gets aggressive and all these. How should a 25-year young one, girl or boy, I don't care,
Yeah.
interact with them? What could be the answer?
I think initially is to not, you know, there's a number of things you can do. The one thing is not stand directly on, like, shoulder face to face with them. You need to be slightly on an angle so that you can, and it's difficult to show you on video, but you actually say, actually talk to me here. So you actually put a focus at the desk. Tell me what it is your issues are, so that they're not feeling it directly. So you almost have to take an issue and turn it into an item. So tell me about this item. Then say to them, okay, look, I appreciate that. You need to understand this is where we're at as a business. And while what you had before was one experience, we're not in the same position now.
Right.
It's not going to be easy. And that's why I think staff need training on that. And like you say, like, you have to role play it, do it like the theatre, so that people get an understanding. I do think there'll be customers that make mistakes. So they'll make mistakes in social distancing. They'll make mistakes in terms of cleaning. But I think they won't do it deliberately. There'll be some that do it deliberately. And I would be in the position at the moment where I say, if you don't stick to our rules, we don't want you as a member, because there's enough people out there that do want to come in, and we're actually restricted on how many we can get in. So we might as well let in the ones that behave rather than the ones that don't. But I think the vast majority, if they make mistakes, we just need to give them what I call a nudge and say to them, oh, remember you've got to do this for us now, rather than go, you haven't cleaned that bike. You haven't done, it's almost like, just remember, can you wipe that down when you're finished? So it's a conversation, not a confrontation.
To sum it up, with a clear direction, and the direction of the communication must be covered, and all the consequences must be covered with the manager or the owner of the gym. And I think to give the staff the rights to tell the members, okay, stop here. That's you have to sanitize and the horns or whatever, the grips. If you don't do it again, I have to do it for you, and you have to stop that, and you can't join the gym for the next 4 weeks or something like this.
And each club will have to work that out, what's relevant to themselves. I think you need to give customers in the first week some, what I would call, leeway. You've got to be a little bit forgiving that they will make mistakes. And just keep reminding them. But if they're deliberately not doing as you're asking, that's a different behavior. And that's where I would say, you know, we need to say to people, look, the conditions of you using the gym now are these. They're not the same as the conditions they were beforehand. And if people go, well, that's not what I pay for. So, well, we'd like to thank you for your custom in the past, but we suggest you actually go somewhere else now.
Makes totally sense. Right now, the next one is, I think we can talk another an hour just for the next question. But I split it in 4 groups: in PT, for group fitness, for owners of gyms, and for the industry in total. And the question is, in the long term, how do you see the impact of this whole global situation? So we can start maybe with the PTs.
I think for PTs, I think the challenge for PTs will be not with their existing customers, but generating new customers. Because I think people will be more anxious about, how does PT work with social distancing? How does PT work? You know, personal training is meant to be personal. That doesn't necessarily mean hands-on, but we do tend to get very close to our clients. So we're going to have to evolve ways of teaching at distance that allow the customer to do that. Now, that's not a skill that doesn't exist, because that's what group exercise teachers do. But the PT is going to have to get used to being distant. I think one of the things, and I think it's going to be true of all the different departments, is this ability to communicate and explain how you work. So even for a PT, I would be making a short video that says, when I work with you, this is the setup. This is our cleaning requirements. This is how I will demonstrate. This is what I'll expect you to do. Here's the program. Now, like you said, Mark, you've developed a training program where you've done it online. I think a lot more trainers will be creating online training programs to supplement their physical training with their clients. People are always going to want a physical trainer. But I think you can now supplement, they'll be able to supplement that much more. Where I do think there's a challenge is, and I think this is again is true across group exercise as well as personal training. There are personal trainers that are really good when you're in front of them, but when they're on a screen, they don't come across as well. And I think there are other trainers who are really good on screen who aren't as good if you actually physically met them. And I gave the example of that the other day with almost like actors. You've got actors that do films that when they go on stage aren't very good. And then you've got stage actors that aren't very good on film, because actually while you think the process is the same, the actual process is very, very different. And so I think we'll see some real superstar trainers come out from being on screen that would never really have made it if you'd seen them in a club.
Yeah, just a few words from my perspective from yesterday again. The other trainers in the plenum said, yeah, I worked on my verbal coaching because I thought, or I figured out this is much more important right now to support the viewers on the, or members on the other side of the screen. And I disagreed. I disagreed because as I told you, I simplified my exercises. And then because I know how to do it with my body, but I'm working much more with my body in front of the cam, because I have 15 members. And when I say, hey, Marianne or Petra, do this, do that, everybody is listening to it and he's disturbed by focusing on their own movement. That's the reason why I'm show more and I talk less. And yesterday, the really very famous trainers from Germany, they disagreed with me, and I said, I don't care, because I like the idea of pantomime. Is that right? To pantomime with people, because it feels more like gamification. It's not like I'm the teacher, you're the student, and I tell you how to do that. It's all the time. I know you have to be on point. You have to talk less and say more.
Mark, we learn with our eyes. It's called vicarious learning. We learn by watching. You learn to walk by watching and then trying. You didn't learn to walk by reading a book or listening to someone describe it. And what I would suggest is, and I'm going to be controversial here, I don't care. Some of those trainers speak more because they like the sound of their own voice.
That's exactly. It's exactly that what I told them yesterday. Because trainers love to talk. Because they think about it. If they were in school and they get the right answer and they get an A. And good one. And then you get your certification after studying. And you are always in the situation to tell the professor or the doctor the answer, and said, good one. And then you step to the gym and the member is asking you a question. I want to lose fat. And then he starts to tell all the anatomically basics, facts, and professional blah, blah, blah. And the member is bored and whatever. It's not, that wasn't the question. Just show me or explain me. By the way, it's a very, very important information what the customer gave us. Okay, very nice. The PT, to summarize that, the business will change. They will separate from the good and bad ones, and we will have a new phoenix. Because
I think so.
New phoenixes, let me say, in the way of real life training, and on the other hand, the guys which will be very professional in the online coaching. Is that right?
Yeah.
But do you believe that humans like to meet humans?
Yes. The reason as a species we're so successful is we collaborate. Now I watch natural history programs where they might show in Africa a termite mound, and they go, this termite mound, there are 10 million termites living in this mound. Look at how they collaborate. And I go, have you seen Mexico City? Have you seen London? You know, termites have created a mound of mud. Look what we've created through collaboration. We naturally like to collaborate. We naturally like to gather, and we like to form tribes. Yeah. And it's in those tribes and in those collaborations where we have strength.
I'll see the online as a bonus or a benefit. Yeah, but maybe you start with a customer you had before COVID. Yeah. And maybe right now when you pimp your website, you will have a few more customers online, but someone who will be coached he's in New York, he wants to join my PT. But maybe my PT clients will join my online coaching when they are traveling to New York for vacation, something like that. And I think this will change, and you have to work. And I did a very nice online convention here, and they started to show people how to install Zoom, because the instructors have never used that, and that there was a technical instruction video how to install and how to set up Zoom. Which window you should open and how to start the set, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, because a lot of people were not digital before, and they have to learn that right now, like the smartphone stuff. It took 10 years.
Mark, before this pandemic, people would say to me, I'd be at a conference and they say, oh, can we set up a meeting? And I'd say, yes, I'll send you a Zoom link. And they would they'd go, and I go, Zoom link. And they go, what's a Zoom link? And I go, it's a video conferencing link. And they go, aren't you going to come and see us? And I went, well, that depends on the end of the conversation we have on the Zoom link. I think one of the things that the pandemic has done for me has meant that when people I say to people, do you want to jump on a Zoom call? They know exactly what I mean now, and they're ready for it. Whereas in the past, they were like, well, is it one of us, or do you want all of us? Or, and I know people are becoming much more efficient at managing these types of calls. You know, I did a webinar recently. We had 300 people on it. Now you can't have 300 little icons of people. So I got rid of all the images so I could just watch my slides. And then I had comments from other people. There's a guy sitting in his car eating a burger while he's listening to the webinar. And I went, good.
Yeah. That was later on. It was a question: what are the learnings, your learnings, or your preparation for your own business? This was one of these answers, because the pandemic for you and the digital idea and how you work with your customers. You're a coach. You're always looking for the resources, not for the problem. It's just solution oriented. And I was aware that these will exactly the answers that you will give us. Looking forward, change your own business, be smart, adapt the situation. And this was exactly what you told us. So
Mark, I'm going to reach away for a second. I just want to reach away because I want to show you something.
Yeah.
If I can, here we go.
Very interesting.
So it's part of this present. It's part of our conversation.
Yeah.
So I keep notebooks. I'm going to just try and do it like that. And I write notes all year long. I've got hundreds of these. Well, no, I haven't. I've got a lot of these. I haven't got hundreds. I've got a lot of these. But I always choose. I had this one is from 1994. And in it, one of the quotes, someone else's quote that I wrote down in 1994 was Hannibal, the soldier that took the elephants across the Alps to attack Rome. And one of his famous quotes was, when they said about taking the elephants over the Alps, they said it can't be done. And his response was, we will either find a way or we'll make one. And I've almost lived, and I saw it the other day when I was flicking through, because I thought, go back through some of your old books, see if it gets some new ideas going. And it's written on the inside, next to one from Michael Jordan. And it was, we'll either find a way or we'll make one. And I think that's pretty much been my philosophy ever since.
Yeah. It fits perfect, I think, for the situation right now. You have to handle your anxiety, right? What's tomorrow? How the business is moving on? But on the other hand, you should always have this saying from Hannibal, because
Yeah.
I never have done that before. Okay, let's go. Yeah.
And that's what I did with Golds in California. It's what I'm doing with other clients at the moment. You know, we normally do what we call a one-day retention audit, where I visit a business.
Mhm.
We spend the morning visiting the sites, asking questions, looking at the data. We spend the afternoon in discussion. And then I give them a report at the end of the day of areas of their business I think they can work on. Now, I've always done those, you know, in the real world at the clubs. One customer had paid for one before lockdown, and then got in touch and said, any chance we could do it online? And I went, let's try. And I said, let's try. I said, this is the position. If we do it online and it works, you've paid for it. If we do it online and it doesn't really work, when I can, I'll come and visit and we'll do it again. So we'll try it out. When I spoke to them at the end of the day, I said, are you happy with what we've done today? They went, this is so much more than we thought we would actually get. So I now know I can do my retention audits in a digital format at a distance as well. So it's really made me think about the way I deliver my business, because a bit like some of the personal trainers, I've always thought I was the most important person and I needed to be there. Now I'm realizing actually I physically don't need to be there. I just need to have the right questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. To step a little bit back.
Yeah.
In the long term, how do you see the impact of the situations for the group fitness in the future?
I think there's going to be a real challenge for group fitness, because one of the things about group fitness is being in a group.
Yeah.
And if we have to do social distancing for a long period of time, I do think group activities is going to lose some of that sense of I'm here, we're working together, we're all trying to achieve something. And that's a shame, because, you know, there's some great group exercise teachers out there that are going to struggle. My concern for the group exercise teachers is that the operators are going to say, well, now we can only have 10 people in the class, not 20. We're going to pay you half the amount of money. And many of those group exercise teachers won't be able to afford to actually do that job in the first place. They won't earn enough living if they were on half their salaries. I don't think they get paid enough in the first place. So I do think some operators will take advantage of that. I do think, and this is just me speculating, that you know, if we think of COVID-19 as a pendulum and it swung really one way in one direction, I do think in the next 18 months, it'll pretty much come back to the middle or the norm, perhaps just off to one side or the other. So I think we'll be okay long term, but I think for the next 18 months, I think there's going to be some challenges, particularly for Group X.
Yeah. And what would you do when you're a gym owner and you have to manage the Group X room? I saw a lot of concepts, but I would ask you first, and how would you set up the Group X room? How would you use it?
I'd probably do something similar. Well, I'm not going to be I don't think there's anything I've got an idea for group exercise that's different from most others. I'd probably mark out floor spacings. And in fact, one of the things I probably would do is almost make a grid on the floor and say, when you do group X, and your group exercise teachers will need to work this out, the routine must fit within that box.
Yeah.
Now, that would also be good practice for being online and creating group exercise programs that people can do at home within a limited amount of space.
You need 4 square meters.
Yeah. And, you know, and a lot of people don't have that amount of space in their living room, or, you know, sometimes it can be quite constrained. So you have to think about that. I do think it's going to be much more along the boutique line of you're going to have to book for a class, and business is going to have to really strict about if you don't turn up, you still pay.
Yeah.
It's going to mean that we're probably going to have a few more classes, but with less people in. So I think classes overall will get shorter. I think classes will drop from being an hour or 45 minutes down to 40 to 30 minutes, because there'll need to be the time to clean in between, and we'll need more classes in order to get 20 people through the workout, and we can only do them in 2 groups of 10. So I do think there'll be some of those adjustments. Beyond that, I haven't got anything really that's that revolutionary.
Yeah, but it moves into the direction of small group training, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
But without paying for it, because small group training would try to as an extra service on the gym floor, and you pay an extra for it for an extra income. Yeah, but right now it looks like we will have small group training without an extra fee, because you have to make sure that your group X classes are still running.
Yeah. But I do think if the group exercise teachers got themselves organized, group exercise teachers are really good at small group training.
Yeah.
They just don't usually do it. And many of the PTs I watch doing small group training aren't good at small group training, because they don't have group control skills. They have one-to-one skills. And so I do think there's an opportunity for some of those group exercise teachers to move across into the small group training arena and grow their income.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And it's always, by the way, and that's one of my strategies when I'm in the club. I tell the owner, mix it up. Yeah, mix the group fitness trainers and the gym floor trainers. The group fitness trainer should be part of the gym floor, and the gym floor trainer should be part of the group fitness.
Yeah.
And share knowledge and skills, because they can learn from each other. And this is very, very big impact for restructuring how to work with a customer.
Yeah.
Okay. What does it mean for the owners of the gyms, maybe in terms of the income, of the memberships, of maybe investments? Something, can tell us something about that?
I'd actually think we might see the re-emergence of the middle market, because the middle market are in a position where they can charge a bit more but not have to have a huge volume of customers. Whereas the low cost, you know, we'll see how it works out. But if you've got a large facility, but you've got 10,000 customers, how are you going to get 10,000 customers through your business in a working week if they all want to train twice a week? You know, you've got to find 20,000 training slots in 168 hours of the week. So I worked it out the other day. If you could have 100 people in a club at a time and they stayed for an hour, obviously in a week, you could have 1,680 customers or visits in that week, which is about 8,000 people if they came twice a week. But you would need 100 people coming at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, the whole 24-hour clock to spread that out. And I don't think that's viable. So it might be interesting to see what the low-cost operators do. I think some of them may be challenged because of social distancing. At the high end, I think the high-end challenge for operators is that they have very nice clubs with lots of amenities like swimming pools and restaurants and tennis courts. But initially when they open, they won't be able to open all of those. So if they can't open all of those, will they still be able to charge their full membership fee? Because if I'm used to paying 150 euros a month to be a member of a club that does everything, but when they reopen, there's no restaurant, there's no bar, there's no locker rooms, but I can have access to the gym, I'm not going to want to pay 150 euros to use a gym.
No.
And so their challenges are going to be slightly different. I think the middle market, which has traditionally been squeezed by both ends, I think they're going to have an opportunity to say, we charge this amount of money, this is the access we can give, and these are the services we can give. So I think we'll see possibly the re-emergence of the middle market. I think the ones who might get hit the most are the boutiques, because they are generally based on Group X in one format or another. Social distancing is going to be a problem, and therefore charging and getting the income they need to be successful might be a problem for them as well.
So the CrossFit boxes could be a big winner of the situations because they just have a rack.
Yeah.
And there's not fixed cardio park, not blah blah blah. It's just a hall,
Yeah.
a rack, and the equipment is very movable. Is that the right word? From A to B.
Yes.
And it's very okay. We use the kettlebell, sanitizing the grips. That's it.
Yeah.
We're using the barbell, sanitizing the barbell. It's done in 1 minute. So these and by the way, the members, and I own a gym, a small one, but it's very dark and dirty. It's in the old bridge. It's not a cleaned high premium blah blah blah, but the people don't care because they're paying for the service, as I told before. And the CrossFit boxes, they have a shower, but one shower for the whole bunch of guys, and one shower, and it's not the most comfortable. So don't get me wrong, all the CrossFit users and boxes in the world, you have beautiful places, but that it's not like marmoring and stones and glass. It's more old and rough, and that's cool. I love that. But that could be a big winner because you can't use the changing rooms. Okay, I don't care. The mentality of the users is I don't care.
And also I think the mentality of those users, while they're I think of them as the superhero types. This isn't going to get me, I'm a CrossFitter. They are, because of the communities they create, they are probably more likely to get their customers to do the cleaning and sanitizing as they go along, because they can build that into the structure of the workouts and the RXs. They can go, it's, 10 ball slams, 10 deadlifts, 5 muscle ups, and then you have to clean everything. But I think they'll do that because they'll say, actually, if that's what I want to do, that's what I've got to do.
That's the thing. As you said, they have to open all the areas in the gym, and you're not able to pay $150 for just sharing or lifting some weights. That could be a real big problem, because when you're allowed to open the pool. And I know 1 or 2, like the Astoria, do they have a pool too? No? And another one here in Hamburg, I think it's a 50-meter indoor gym. And you just open it for how many people would be there in 18 hours? I don't know, whatever, 200, 100 a day. And that's an expensive idea. So we will see what happened. Maybe we talk later in 3 months again and see how the fitness adapted. For the whole industry, because there are a lot of industry partners like the manufacturers. Like maybe the banks, and they doing they give the credits. There's a whole industry behind the front end. What our members see. What will happen there? Will the big manufacturers, will they still alive, or?
I think the big manufacturers will still be here. I think they're in for a rough time for the next 18 months at least. Because if you're a gym owner now and let's say you were shut for 4 months, you're less likely to go when you open, I'm going to refit the gym out, because the first thing you'll want to do is recoup the income that you've just lost for the last 4 months. So I think that the reinvestment in equipment may take longer, although really worn out equipment will need to be replaced, because if it's really tired or the upholstery is poor, then people are going to be looking at it and going, that's not clean, and that will be counterproductive. So I think, the big equipment manufacturers will be fine in the long term. I think they're just going to struggle initially. I think what we will see is, I think we will see businesses disappear, health club chains, small businesses disappear just because of the financial situation. And therefore it may be possible to buy clubs much cheaper, because they will go into bankruptcy or they'll go into receivership or whatever the language is of the country. But someone will be able to come along and pick up clubs. I think there'll be an anxiety around investing in certain types of clubs. I think if you've looked at the industry as a whole for the past 5 years, a lot of the big investment money has gone into the streaming technologies. You know, it's gone into the pelotons, it's gone into the echelons, the beach bodies. Les Mills have put a lot of money into their online. You know, that is going to be, I think, where the money goes, because that is less interrupted by things like a pandemic, national disasters and other things. And actually, you know, I do some Peloton classes each day. They've got one instructor in a studio, and the class I did last night, there were 2,000 people in the class, you know, but they had one studio, which was probably, I don't know, 5 meters by 5 meters, 25 meters square. And that's all they need to service 2,000 customers.
And you know what? I'm so happy that I'm trading Peloton. I bought Peloton 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I do Peloton. I love it. And I know people in the industry will be upset by this. I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. What I have been doing, Mark, is I've actually, because it's in my nature, I've been in my head as I'm doing the classes, I've been deconstructing the classes into the component parts and looking for the behavioral triggers and cues that they use. And I've now got about a list of 10 things that I recognize that you would do if you wanted to get people to buy into an online program. That when I watch other people's streamed approaches, I'm thinking, you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this. And it's, for me, I think it's why Peloton, or one of the major reasons Peloton's been so successful, is because they use a lot of behavioral cues in the structure of what they do.
Oh, can you send me the list, Paul?
When I'm ready. Just for you, just for us, mate. For our online streaming programs. I don't even know that Peloton know that some of the things they do create certain behavioral triggers. I know some of the instructors talk absolute rubbish sometimes. Like they speak and I'm thinking, I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah, but a few things, maybe they set it up from a totally different point of view. Yeah. But your knowledge behind, you're able to deconstruct the idea of them, and you put it in another context.
Yeah.
And that makes it very, very smart, because you're not out of the industry with a POV, but you're from a different part. Yeah. You're facing it from a different part of the industry. Your view is different. Yeah. And it's totally possible that they don't know what they're doing.
No. No, and I think some of it is, I do think there's some of them, but there are certainly, I look at things and go, oh, I recognize that technique. I recognize that technique. And some of that might just be the instructor, because you don't see it in all instructors. You see it in some instructors, but not everybody. And there are other things that they do digitally, like the countdown timers and who else is training, all of those things. You know, I could explain a behavioral model of why you'd include that. Now, the challenge for the likes of me and you, if we were to stream our workouts to our friends or customers, could we include all of the things that they do that make it feel slick? It's almost the difference between a Disney film production and me with my iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a nice and the wise words. But close to the end of this totally unbelievable a podcast, I think. And I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate a little bit the shutdown, because we have time for 90 minutes. You have never 90 minutes time to spend in front of a camera. So this is absolutely out of space that you spend this time for me and the crowd here, and with a very, very young and little podcast, Tailormade podcast in Germany or in the DACH region. But at the end, it's not about the podcast. It's not about me. The last words in my podcast are always delivered by the guest. And it could be smart or hard. It could be funny or sunny, salty or sweet. Yeah. Yeah. It's on you. So I'll say bye-bye to the audience. And I'll say bye-bye to you. And if you spoke the last word, I'll click on stop.
Okay, so I'm just going to go back to something that we mentioned during the podcast, and that was the Hannibal quote. I said in my book, there's this quote that I wrote out: we'll either find a way or we'll make one. The quote that's underneath that I mentioned, I referenced, there was Michael Jordan. The Michael Jordan quote that's alongside the Hannibal one is, I cannot accept not trying. And I will leave you with that thought. Do not try. You've got to try things and see if they work. If they don't work, they don't work. But don't not try.